and welcome to your space with your host Hannah Arilito. We are here once again to give the young people a platform to express their thoughts and express their views when it comes to the relation of fighting against corruption. Now with me in studio is an exciting team and I'm excited to have this conversation with them. Hello doctor, welcome to the show.
Hello Anna, thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be part of this show this evening.
Yes.
Thank you.
How has your week been?
My week has been splendid, action-packed.
Yes.
Christmas parties.
Yes. Hello Joel.
Hi Hannah, thank you for having me as always.
Yes.
You're welcome viewers. We are very excited for what we're going to discuss today, and sit and enjoy.
Thank you so much for honoring the invite. And we do have someone new onto the screen. Hello and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Yes, so our dear viewer, how are you all doing? I'm so excited to be on this show. Yes, my name is Shedrick Aibale. I'm a journalist and also at the same time into advocacy.
Yes. Now today we're going to look at the impact of corruption on poverty and inequality. And I know some of you could be asking yourselves, Hannah, how do all those three things come together and relate with one another? And I think I'm going to start with Shedrick because you say you do quite a number of advocacy work. Yeah. So where is the relation between corruption, poverty, inequality? Where do they intersect?
Well, thank you very much. First and foremost, corruption is the genesis of all. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at inequality and poverty, they are all babies of corruption.
Yes.
How does inequality and poverty come about? If a service isn't delivered, the people at the bottom are affected.
Yeah,
if someone at the top is messing up, the people at the bottom are always hit real hard. You know, there is that quote that always says, when elephants are fighting, the grass is suffering.
Yes.
So when corruption is being done, the poor are getting more poorer and service delivery is always not equal. Yeah.
Yes, Joel.
Corruption, yes, it is very interrelated. Actually, some people say it's a symptom, but it can also be a cause. So in this scenario that we are looking at, the relationship is that corruption is the beginning of this. That's why he called it a genesis. Corruption is I remember one time doctor was calling it an amoeba. It is very formless. It changes form from time to time, and whenever it changes form, more people are brought into, more people are affected. For instance, in the earlier years, I think in the 90s, when Uganda was recovering from those wars and things like that, corruption was more somebody in government, maybe someone has given them a bribe, someone in a court. I was analyzing the cases we were handling in anti-corruption law, and I realized that in the years, in the 90s and the 80s, the cases were someone, a private individual bribing an official and giving them
some cash.
Yes, some cash to do. But now transactions are grand scale. They happen online. There is layering, there is laundering, okay?
Of money.
So yes, and in all these phases, as corruption is changing shape, okay, more people are being affected. So that's how we get poverty. That's how we get poor service delivery. That's how we get more people are suffering because corruption is continuing to change what? To
Faces,
change. Yes, to change face. So I think that's why it is very important for us for the fight against corruption to be a continuous
battle.
Yes.
Yes, I like how you brought in the fact that it changes like amoeba.
Yes.
One day it's like long, one other time it's big and all that. Dr. Patricia, I want you to go down to the nitty-gritty. Can you give us an example where corruption directly impedes access to basic services?
Well, while Shedrick was speaking, and Joel, I was reflecting on an article I wrote in 2020 during the lockdown. And I wrote about the impact of corruption on human rights, the implications corruption has on human rights. You see, when corruption happens, it affects both the economic, social, and cultural rights, and even the civil and political rights. When you look at the economic, social, and cultural rights, exactly what Shedrick talked about, the rights, like the right to economic welfare services, like education, health, is all affected.
Yes.
Infrastructure is affected. Civil and political rights, rights to vote, you know, those group rights and so on are all affected because the resources supposed to make things right is taken by just a few people. Now, when you talk about examples, I'll give you an example of the roads.
Yes.
For instance, recently you might have seen me in a battle somewhere over Usmid in Ntungamo,
So-
Mbarara, and Kabale, where a project came up to do roads, municipal roads, and a local contractor was procured to do the work. But apparently the local contractor was alleging that district technocrats have eaten his money. And he didn't. What he was left with could not do the roads.
Yeah.
I said, well, but where is proof of that? I said, no, I think I'll do a round table session. They are alleging that the money was eaten. There is no proof of that. For me, what I want is service delivery. I put them to task. I said, look here, I need service delivery. In the plan, there was ABCD. USMID came under World Bank. I want service delivery. But there was delay. I know that USMID is winding up this month. But because I went and imposed myself, I see the roads are done. Ntungamo is now tarmacked, Mbarara was done, and Kabale is being tarmacked. And for me, I was like, hey, so this other approach also works. But if they had not done that, then I was going to pick them up and say, hey, money was released for this purpose. How comes it was not implemented? Then I would put them to task and invoke my powers. But there are very, very glaring examples out there where you go to a health center for inspection and find that there are no drugs in the health center. Or the drugs in the health center are being taken away by the nurses, the midwives, and patients are meant to go and buy from where the thieves have taken. So it is very, very absurd out there. So corruption has got implications because it widens the income inequality, first of all, because just a few people will be having too much and the poor will even get poorer and the poverty levels will go up. Corruption increases income inequality and poverty, and it lowers the levels or the rate of economic growth in the country, and which is very, very bad. It affects the social welfare programs, it affects the distribution of wealth in the country, it affects the policies, even implementation of the government policies and programs, basically all get affected when money is swindled away. And you know, government comes up with very good plans. Like I'll give you an example of this Operation Wealth Creation, Emyoga, and the parish development model. Very good programs to enhance people's standard of living and improve and alleviate poverty. But you find that just a few people strategize and begin to steal that money. And like Joel was saying and referring to what I said, proving an act of corruption is getting very, very difficult unless we lay traps. Sometimes we have to lay traps in order to catch people actually taking bribes. But also when we do audits, we are able to get good cases for prosecution. Yes.
So how does corruption create a cycle of poverty by maybe limiting some opportunities? Because I'm now looking at it from the explanations everybody has given, and I'm realizing it's kind of like a cycle. Lack of education, sometimes people are limited that good education because maybe people are swindling money from the top, and then people are not educated, and now they can't be able to access certain kind of jobs.
Don't even look at it as swindling money from the top, Hannah. If government is releasing money for paying teachers, and teachers are not going to class to teach,
Exactly.
but they are paid.
Yes.
That is already a big financial loss. Actually, when the Inspectorate of Government did a research, a study on the cost of corruption, we realized that government loses 10 trillion annually to corruption, paying people who are not working.
Yes.
Abscondment from duty, you go to the districts, you find on a Friday nobody's in office, or people have dropped their jackets and stepped out.
Yes.
But they are getting salary every month.
month.
So we need a total overhaul in order to improve. The systems need to really be worked
Definitely.
on and changed, yes.
Shedrick, let's talk more about that cycle.
Because as the Deputy IGG was stating, it really pains me that most of the losses we get from corruption are clocking to almost 10 trillion shillings. If you look at the budget of the Republic of Uganda, it's at 56 trillion plus. That means
over
it's like they're a group of people who just, their job is to steal money. And what pains most is, what makes this a cycle is, you look at the bursaries government gives. You get to realize that these bursaries are taken up by well-off families, well-off-to-do families. And then those who are supposed to really get these bursaries don't. Another case is you look at like government ministries, a case in point. You find the uncle is the HR, the sister is the accounting, the distant aunt is this,
Nepotism.
yet these people are not qualified. And this in turn makes government have a very bad image, yet it's a few people who are causing this chaos. So how this cycle keeps rotating, the youth in Uganda are skilled. They are very educated. But where is the opportunity? That means even if someone goes to school, they will not work anywhere.
They'll still be cut off
They will still
somewhere
be
in the
cut
process.
off. It's like there's that cycle. There is a class which has a smaller circle. And then these other people are feeding off that cycle. And in return, it affects the larger. Because now the few who are benefiting are very few. If you look at our population, we are roughly 40-something million. But then the wealthy can be about 6 million if we are to put at a rough figure. Now of these 6, there are those who have people who are feeding off them. Now for such a person to sustain the feeding chain behind him, they have to do what?
A lot of
They have to steal. So this cycle keeps going on and on in that someone reaches a point and the country loses hope. The best case is where I come from, for example, Chiriandongo district. There are people who are brought, I think they were displaced due to different, either wars or something. They were brought,
Refugees.
yes, refugees.
Yes.
Now there's a specific person who's causing havoc and saying he wants to take over the land. Because for him, he clearly states he gets orders from the big man. And then even if district leaders come out to talk about it, the person says, if my phone doesn't ring from above, this land is mine.
That is terrible.
Yes, and it was so painful that towards the end of November, a life was lost in that chaos because the land in contestation is being guarded by military personnel. So these people who are displaced from their origins and they are brought into a district which accommodates them, the case becomes worse. Again, from there, they are being displaced again where they were brought, and the cycle just continues. So we see how painful the cycle of corruption keeps chewing up inequality and poverty. And the only way we can do this is if we are to start respecting the flow of chain of command. In that if the IGG's office or the Ministry of Lands or the Internal Affairs issues the directive, it must be respected.
It must be respected.
But as long as we have those gaps, some people be like, I don't listen to so and so, it really demoralizes the young people out there.
That's insane. Let's take a break and a breather. We'll be right back in just a few. Welcome back from that mini break. You are still here on Your Space with your host Hannah Arinitre. We're still looking at the impact of corruption in regards to poverty and inequality. Now we're looking at the cycle of poverty and corruption and how this keeps going on over and over. Now I'm quite interested in finding out which part do the youth play in nipping off that cycle. What can you do to cut that terrible cycle? Joel.
Okay, first of all, as we've been already saying, the primary responsibility that we can play, or the role that we can play in the fight, is number one, increasing our knowledge about the vice and making sure that we are the voice of the bodies that are fighting corruption. Nobody can operate without a mouth. So we are the mouthpiece. We are the mouthpiece of in the fight against corruption. So we can raise awareness, okay? And then accountability. When we are talking about the youth and the power they have, we have our phones. And we can do the reporting, we can do the name and shame. Of course, subject to the limitations we have always been talking about. When you see a challenge, for instance, there is that month where people were raining hailstorm and fire on the roads.
Yes.
People were planting. I saw all kinds of depictions on people trying to depict the state of our roads,
Yes.
putting, talking about the potholes, putting boats in the potholes. Okay, that is good. That is good, but also in other places, in our schools, in our administration. And in some instances, it's the students themselves that are giving the bribes. Okay? They give people, they give the administration bribes. That, you know, I'm applying for this and this course. I saw it when I was applying at the university. So there's a big challenge, but it's us that play a central responsibility in making sure that we put people in offices and ourselves, okay, in a place where we are free from blame, and we ensure that everyone is accountable. I am accountable as a student, but also the administration ought to be accountable.
Now, Dr. Patricia, from your professional point of view, you've been in these situations before. How do you think that some of us can advocate to cut off that cycle between corruption and poverty? How can we cut off that cycle and start afresh?
Well, I think it's very important for us to go back to the values. If we have the values and we stand by the principles that govern this country, I think as young people, we would know exactly what our responsibilities are. Responsibilities, Article 17 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, has duties and responsibilities of the citizens, and young people can play a very significant role because their responsibility can be, from what Joel has said, they can use the media, social media, they can use their energy to advocate, they can do talk shows, engaging in conversations like this, and they can also participate in debates and also demonstrate leadership by example. Because when you want people to follow a certain direction, to model a certain way, you don't do the opposite. So as young people, we need to be exemplary, we need to show people the way and what exactly needs to be done. And then we need to own the war against corruption through whistleblowing. You can come out and whistleblow or report or name and shame, participate in the clubs, the school clubs, those ones who are in high school or universities, and basically advocate, do a lot of advocacy in the fight against corruption. Because the majority of the population we have today is the young people. If you go to the countryside, you will see majority young people, and most of them are idle. They go to the trading center in the evening to eat sugarcane and machomo or play cards. But it is very important that they begin engaging in constructive dialogue on how they can contribute to improving the situation. Otherwise, we are going to continue with this lamentation until the cows come home. True. What is it that you can do as a young person to improve the situation? Can you report the case? Can you share information? Can you widen your knowledge base by reading a little more and getting to know how to participate? Recently, I was in Chegegwa monitoring government projects, hospitals, and roads. And while I was monitoring a certain road, one of the journalists took a picture of my car and put it on their thing of Uganda potholes.
Oh.
I am monitoring government's projects because I know that money was released for this road and this road has got to be done. And someone, instead of putting culverts, decided to pour soil, and it was a spot for accidents.
What?
Even maneuvering to pass through there was a problem for our cars. So we went to monitor. Of course, I left Chegegwa when I had put the district engineer in, and other people are now interdicting them. But I want accountability and service delivery. If we are going to talk about strengthening transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption, we have to demonstrate leadership by example. That means that even the journalists I work with have got to be responsible. Talk about the monitoring activity. Don't pick my car and put it on Uganda potholes. Because I'm monitoring government projects, I want service delivery. Yes. And we need to be very professional the way we do our work. So as young people, I know young people get very excited over certain things, but let's be professional. Let us team up, and together we can win. Because the victims of corruption, majority of them are the young people. They're the people who are getting bad services or no services at all. They're the people who are suffering on these roads. They're the people who are not getting quality education because some people are not doing their jobs quite well. They're not getting to class to teach and so on. So I think young people can do quite a lot. In the Inspectorate of Government, we have established integrity clubs in schools. We have worked with the young people, especially from the institutions of learning like Makerere. We have this program on Your Space where we are still again with young people in conversations like this. But what we are doing is basically to unpack the values. We want young people to embrace these values so that we stand by them, and together we can make our country a beautiful place to stay in and to live in and work in. Yes.
Shedrick, do you think that if we removed corruption out of the picture, then Uganda would have fewer or maybe even no marginalized people or poor people?
The honest truth is yes.
Yes.
Because if we are to look at lack of medicines in hospitals due to corruption, if we look at the poor roads we have in the capital city due to corruption, if we look at teachers not coming to school to teach, it's all corruption. So if we are to get rid of corruption, cut off the head, which is get rid of corruption, and trust me, services will be delivered perfectly well. Yeah.
So what measures can we take to implement the breakage of this cycle, Sakwa?
Yes. So there's for the viewer, they are the measures that we can take. First of all, is what she has talked about. Advocacy is very important.
Very true.
It's very important because it always starts with the mindset of the community. Okay, what we think of ourselves and our country before we actually tackle the structural issues. So, for us, our responsibility is to first get the message out there that yes, come on, this conversation is not only for us, for the people that are in offices, but also for us young people. You know why there is laxity in people fighting corruption? It's because they have not yet come to the realization that they are actually being affected. You know, some journalists that I would beg not to mention the name was saying that the reason why you're still pointing fingers and still slow to pick up about a fire is because you've not realized that it's not only burning at your neighbor's place, but it is also burning in your house. So it is very important that we get the information out there to tell the people and to know that this state of victimization is not can change. Uganda can change. Things can change. Uganda can become a better country. We can wake up one day and you can go to the hospital and you get medicine for free. For free, it's possible. You can go to school and come out when you're assured that you'll you'll have a job. It's possible. So awareness is very important to change the mindsets of people. You know, one of those episodes we were talking about the fact that we have lost faith in the system.
Yeah.
That we no longer think these things can work. Even when you know the procedure, you say, but before that procedure, I'll first fake into what? Into chidogo. So that I lubricate the procedure. So really, it's first about the mindset. Then for the mindset, that one, there are practical things. Let's do debates. I am still talking about Iran. I think I should just write something, a proposal to you,
honestly,
doctor.
I feel like that could be a very good idea.
Yes.
Just work on it, Sakwa.
I write a
And
proposal.
speak to me after.
We write a proposal, then we shall see what we can do. Yeah, so those things about awareness. This show, of course, continuing to publicize what we are doing about corruption and what we young people can do. I believe we all know that we can do something, but we are just waiting for that moment
to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a fantastic time with you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll catch you again next Sunday, same time, same place, right here with your host, Hannah Ariniju. But also, feel free to follow us on our Twitter handle at YourSpaceUganda. Other than that, bye-bye.